Welcome to the Let's Run Fit podcast. I'm your host, B. Lit. This is the podcast that helps you lace up your sneakers, embrace your inner athlete, and conquer your fitness goals. Today we have a very special guest joining us to shed light on topics that are essential for all athletes and runners alike, strength training. Our guest is Phung Tran, an ACSM Certified Exercise Physiologist who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the world of fitness coaching. Phung is the founder of Being Active is Easy, a platform dedicated to helping individuals discover and transform using science-based fitness. So let's get started. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you. So if you could just start off by letting our listeners know a little bit about yourself, your background in exercise science, and how you became so passionate about strength training.
Thank you. So my mantra is Pilates or yoga ain't enough for you or your overall health now and in the future. And that's why I am a strength coach to show women how to build lean muscles without being bulky and muscular. Because I literally went to the ER while playing Just Dance because I was too weak. I don't want you to be like that. I've been a coach for 3 years, but only focuses in strength since last year. And so I want for you to prevent that from happening.
Oh, yeah. That is crazy that you went to the ER for something so simple. But that actually happens a lot because we just don't have, the strength background as women, because we do believe this unfortunate lie that we're going to get bulky.
Yeah, it's very sad for women, especially. I've seen so many who, had to make some progress and just quit because they start seeing some changes.
Oh, yeah. I think it's still just maybe left over from like the 40s and 50s where they thought if women did anything, our uteruses would fall out. That
Something
we
like
just
that.
assume that we're going to do the same thing as men, which is so not true. It's just
That's right.
absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
For those who may be new to the concept, could you really explain what strength training is and how it's different from other forms of exercise that we might be doing?
So let's talk about strength training versus running because that's what y'all do. So strength training focuses more on your muscles and bones. It doesn't have any rhythm. So like when you're running, you kind of have, the tempo set where you run how much per how many miles. Strength training doesn't have that. Instead, it has it's more structured. It's focusing on, different groups of muscles, say, your upper body, your lower body, and the heart rate during strength training will go up and down between sets. So you have, like rest in between where your heart rate actually come down a little bit. And then when you work out again, your heart rate will go up.
Yeah, so that is a huge difference. And I think a lot of people don't understand that because I've actually had people tell me that they were scared they were going to get bulky legs from running. But like, we don't have the
Surprisingly.
resistance here.
Yeah,
So how
exactly.
can strength? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny when people just think they're gonna get bulky anytime they do any type of physical activity at all.
I think it's just all that misinformation that's just still out there. How can strength training really benefit just not even just athletes and runners in general, but just anybody on the planet? Because I think it's so important that everyone does some type of resistance training in their lifetime. How can that be really, really beneficial for someone?
I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, athletes or runners, like if you look at all the athletes now, like Olympians, all of them will do strength training on the sides, regardless of their sports. It's just a supplement to their sports. So strength training, there are two things that I, usually focus on, is strengthening the parts that are less used. So like when you run, you're not going to use your arms as much as your legs. So you want to do strength training to help with that so that you can be a balanced person and also to prevent injury. So that's my bigger part, which is why, which is what that motivated me to start doing this in the first place. So running, to prevent injury. So you say a lot of runners might have knee problems. You probably notice that. And strength training is to strengthen the parts that you needed. So say you're using more quads. So what about your calf muscles? What about your hamstring muscles? Those are things that you still need. Those are in your legs, but you might not use as much when you run, and they might get weaker compared to other parts. And so you do strength training to strengthen them so that they're all of the same strength in your legs to support your runs.
Exactly. That was just a perfect explanation.
Mhm.
When it comes to strength training, there are, like we mentioned before, a lot of women, especially, who are still just plagued with these common misconceptions and fears. What is a way that you go about kind of addressing those fears and helping? Because I know you said that one of the things you really like is to empower women to do strength training and not be scared of getting bulky. What is the kind of a way that you specifically address if I was one of your clients and I came up, I was like, I don't want to get bulky, but I want to strength train? What would you say to me?
Well, the first thing is just, biology. Like it's hard for us women to build muscles. We have less testosterone than men. Like on average, we only have 10% of the amount that on average men have. So that testosterone is what build muscles. And if we have so little, it's going to be very hard to build those up. And and also maybe injuries related. You see all kinds of, maybe, I don't want to say against CrossFit, but you might see some CrossFit workout or some barbell workout that, people doing crazy things and then injuring themselves, passing out on the ground. Those are very extreme situations. And usually we don't go there, like we don't go that far, and we focus on what you want to do. So for you, so it's probably more, running. How do you what are the exercises we can do that help with your running? So say maybe we might do some just physical therapy, like exercises on one day that you run, but on the days that you're not, we might go a little harder. So those are the kind of things that we do when it's come to strength training.
Exactly. And when you mention CrossFit, I think CrossFit gets a bad name because
Mm.
there are so many people owning those gyms. I think they actually call them boxes that don't follow the strength training principles that are taught to someone who has the training like you do. So they just want everyone to go as ham as hard as they possibly can every single second when that's not how the human body works.
Yeah, and they
And
don't focus on the form, which is
exactly, it's
what
just
will,
go heavy, go heavy, go heavy. We're like, oh, that form, but no.
yeah.
Like cross training would be fantastic if every single box had someone to watch on form. And there are some fantastic CrossFit gyms out there, but there are some that I'm just like, whew,
Oh,
that is
yeah.
it's a rough
I mean, they've
situation.
gotten better, to be honest. Like they have gotten much better. Like I know of a CrossFit gym close to me that there's a small gym. They still go with the tempo that you need to go fast, but you can tell that they only let the clients go up to the point that their body can handle instead of,
Exactly.
like just pump it out, pumping iron out.
And that is so, so important. When it comes to women in particular, like you mentioned, we have less testosterone than men because, we're not men. So what happens to a man is not going to happen to a woman. What is something both physically and mentally that is so incredibly fantastic for a woman whenever she's doing strength training?
So, like we said, we're talking about, strength training to build muscles and bones. So, what happened during strength training is that you have, these little micro tears in your muscles, fibers. You can't really see them, but they're the reason why you feel sore. And so when stimulate growth that way, so you're targeting one group that you feel like it needs to improve. You work on them, you stimulate growth. You feel sore for a day or two, but it shouldn't be like, like forever. That's just soreness, it's not pain. And from that growth, you're gonna have more muscles, more bones, and that will prevent, osteopenia, osteoporosis, which is a huge problem for us as we age. And also, you're just being more competent because strength training, you can't really think about anything else when you do strength training but the motions. So like if you're being very distracted, like that you cannot do it, you have to it's more like meditation with weights. So that's one way that I mentioned that to my clients. You just have to put everything out the window and just focus on what you're doing in the gym.
I love how you said that meditation with weights. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. I'm stealing that from you. Hope that's not trademark. I really like that. When we've been talking about all of these like physiological mechanics that we've been kind of going through about what strength training does and how it can impact our bodies, you kind of just touched on a little bit, but how can that really help us prevent like osteoporosis? Because women are extremely susceptible to that. We're much more likely to get it than men. I'm honestly not even sure the biology why. I just know that's one of those facts in the world. So how does strength training help prevent that?
So it's a lot with, with your body. If you don't use it, you lose it. And for us, like when we pass the age of 30, we start losing some of that. And strength training is what keeping that all together. Like you slow down the loss that you're gonna have. So I can mention, like one study by Ingle Kell. So he found that, on a longitudinal study, so he follows women over the course of 10, 20 years, and he sees that exercise maintains bone density at the spine and hip in early postmenopausal women. And so those are the areas that might break, or you might know someone who broke the hip and then, they go to the hospital. That's really traumatic. And so strength training, like the exact, like step by step or cellular thing, it's not I guess we don't have the definite reason. Yes, we know that it has those micro muscles tears. It stimulate growth there. It's change your hormones, lots of improvement in insulin sensitivity. So those are the things, all of them together. So think of your body as like a complete machines instead of like like a computer. When you input one thing, it would give out the other. So this your body, because of strength training, really helping with that, and so you will see a huge improvement over time.
That is amazing. Do you know, like, if someone was already diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, would it be dangerous for them to strength train, or is it still just as safe and just as wonderful for them? Because I know that's something a lot of people, they're like, oh, I have osteoporosis, I have to be careful. Is that going to be dangerous for them, or would this actually be beneficial for them?
Well, actually, half of my clients right now in person have some kinds of osteopenia, osteoporosis. So it's not like you shouldn't be doing it at all. So that is the 40s and 50s myth that we hear about again. Like if you're, break a bone, don't use it. Actually, if you break a bone when it's healed good enough, you're gonna tell your coach, your doctor, what you feel good about, and then we'll help you through the recovery process. So now if you go, say, into the hospital, you broke a hip, within about 3 days of you recovering, they're going to have some physical therapists coming in and make you stand up. It's that crazy. So if you have osteopenia, osteoporosis, it's more okay, what do we need to focus more on? What we're not out here, doing pumping iron. We're more out here doing mobility work. So say you're still squatting, but you won't have to do a normal barbell squat. Say you can do a box squat. That is much easier. You can still use some weights, but it's only up to the point where you feel comfortable with, instead of like being one of those kids and be like, oh, okay, I need to do 100 pounds, 200 pounds kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm really glad I asked you that question because I've had a lot of people come to me asking about that. I was like, no, you should still run, you should still lift, you should still do all the things. You do need to be more careful, but it's not cut it out completely.
Yeah,
A
never
lot
do
of my
that.
listeners are also beginners and they're just starting their fitness journeys, or they might have been on their fitness journey for a while, but they're really struggling at the motivation of staying with that consistency and getting started. If one of them wanted to incorporate strength into their routine, what advice would you have for them to help them get going?
I mean, just start very simple, easy. I would say start with body weight exercises. So things that you can do, say, before your run. So, like getting to a run is really hard. So adding strength training on top of that might take even more time. So instead of that, you just start before you run, do like some warm up, some body weight squat, some push-ups if you can, lunges. Those are perfect. And keep it short. So say, what I do for a lot of beginners on my end online is offer, 6-minute workouts. So those are things you can do it within 6 minutes before your run. You do a couple of exercises, strength training that target all the muscles. So like upper body, you can do push-ups, you can do some ab crunches for your ab, some squat for your legs, and then you start running. It's just that simple.
Exactly. I feel like so many people think that it has to be this huge, encompassing workout that takes up a huge amount of time when it doesn't. I've talked about this on a recent episode, actually. You just have to do it. It could just be 3 minutes while you're brushing your teeth, is something I've mentioned before. It could just be while you're washing the dishes. Like, it could be
Right.
so many simple things. I love that you offer those 6 minute workout options for people so they have that as just a practical way to help them find that motivation. So it doesn't have to be something humongous.
No. Yeah, like I have one of the clients do is when, they're shopping and waiting to check out, they'll be, doing like one single leg squat, holding onto the cart.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Just kind of doing small things just in your everyday life.
Hmm.
For someone who actually is a runner and has been running for a while, who wants to start incorporating strength training into their training plan, what would be some kind of like modifications or startups or considerations that they might need to keep in mind for either a muscle group that's, like you mentioned, is less used? So we use quads and hamstrings, our calves a lot. But what about some other moves that could really help us keep well balanced in our leg muscles? Because as you said, we do use our legs a lot more than our upper bodies. What's one of
Yeah.
those smaller things that we could start?
So a lot of, what I see with runners is knee problems. So we do more, you know, um, more physical therapy like it's not physical therapy, like I don't offer physical therapy, but things like standing terminal knee extension, or a one-legged step down. So like lateral step down or forward step down. So those like all the kinds of things, because even if you run, it's not your muscles are not going to develop evenly. And so when you do more single leg workout strength training on a single leg, it would help with, balancing out those just imbalance that you have. So maybe your right leg is a little stronger than your left. So when you do like the single leg workout, you can really see, okay, this is the part that I need to focus on. This is the motion. So say you're stepping forward down from a block, you can tell that, oh, I'm being imbalanced here, so I need to work more on that. So or you think about, Romanian deadlift. So you're using more, your backside. So more, your lower back, your a little bit of abs. So those are the things that you do use anyway, but not maybe not as much. Some of the glutes that you use, but not a whole lot. So you can use them as well. And last but not least, ankles and, little feet exercises. So when you run, you're gonna be on the road a lot, and those joints are gonna be, like beat up because they basically bear your entire body weight plus some with the forces that you put on when you run. And so you do ankles and feet exercises like, calf raises, maybe some, like just drawing circles with the ankles. Those are the kinds of things that you want to do for somebody who run a lot.
I love that you said that, and my body immediately goes, I haven't done any ankle stuff. I can just sit here and do it right now. I can get my little workout in while we're still doing the interview, right? Just
Hmm.
simple ways that it can just be incorporated into your day. Before, when you mentioned the mental health and physical activity and how it can help you become mentally stronger, what is something that can kind of be like a specific thing? I know you mentioned it's therapy, not therapy, sorry, meditation with weights. I almost had that all screwed up and put words in your mouth. What is something that you really feel like that can help you in your everyday life?
So I mean, there are some study that's find like correlation between strength training and helping to improve depression, anxiety, maybe sometime insomnia as well. So those are your mental health. Like maybe you run, say if you're a really good runner, you run maybe like an hour or two every day. But what about the rest of the hours? So say 22, 23, the other hours that you don't run, what are you going to do? And so the just the mental health part of feeling like you're, using your energy, you don't have any pain after you run, so that's great. And then really feel like you're very competent with the goal that you set out to do. Like those are huge things. Like I have clients who, that's a funny thing. Like she's, in her 70s, old Southern woman. Like I don't know if you can tell from my accent, like old Southern woman going to Costco, and this one man who was struggling to lift up like a box of vodka, like the
Oh, those are
alcohol.
heavy.
Yeah, that's heavy. And she swooped down and lifted up, put it in his cart for him.
I've
Those
actually
are the,
done that before.
yeah.
There was
But
someone, it was a buying a dog food, and this lady was asking for help, and like the actual Costco employee was doing something else. And all these
Mm,
people were walking by her, and I just come up to her and I was like, I got you. And I lift
yeah,
and put the dog food in like the trunk of her car.
exactly. And
And I'm
think
like, this is
about,
so easy. Like I do this
yeah,
all the time because I
it's
actually
the
use the same dog
competent.
food.
Yeah. Like, but imagine this 70 something sweet old lady coming out to you, like he's a man too. So like that was a man struggling. Like just how much more, like confident she feel after seeing his face after she put that on his card.
Mine was the faces of all the people around us who
Oh,
ignored her pleas until I helped. And then suddenly every single man on the planet had just swarmed this car. And I was like, I've already put it in the car now. Y'all ignored her.
yeah, like
Like,
what's your point?
like, why are you here now? And that gave me a boost. And like to this day, I think about that and I smile because like I was able to help because I had the strength background to be able to
Hmm.
lift. I think it's like 35 pounds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the bags of dog food are very awkward. And I
Yeah.
was still able to lift it and get it in the car and help her and be able to be that person that helps someone else's day just as much as I
Hmm.
could help my own day.
Exactly.
Like it's like you said, it's empowering. It just makes you feel confident.
Yeah, and you know that you're gonna need it some other times, like you said. Like later on, you might need to do something else that might need to lift 30 pounds worth of something. And you feel like, oh, I've done this before. I can do it.
Exactly. Nothing's worse than when I'm trying to move something and I can't and I have to wait for my husband to come home and help me. It
Oh,
just makes
yeah.
me so mad. I'm like, I want
Right?
to do it and get it done now. I don't want to
Hmm.
wait. And I hate having to wait for someone else to help, which is why I love strength training. Like, strength training is one of my favorite things to do because it gives me that empowerment to be able to do what I need to do without
Hmm.
relying on others.
Right.
And I feel like women desperately need to find ways to not be reliant on others.
Yes,
Society wanted us to be like that in the 40s and 50s. It ain't like that anymore. Let's go.
yeah. I mean, look, it's a little hard, but might as well do it instead of waiting for your 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 significant other to go home, which is gonna be hours from now. You might as well just get it over.
Yeah, I can get a lot done now that I couldn't do before. What are some really challenges, like really big challenges or roadblock blocks that people really face when they're starting to or maintaining these strength routines? And what's something that you can do and tell them to kind of help them overcome?
So one of the biggest things they either make, their exercise either too easy or too hard. And so they get bored with that routine. So if it's too easy, you can do like 10 jumps and then you're like, oh, that's it. Like I don't want to do more. Like, it's become boring for your
Mhm.
mind. And so one way to do that is actually think of, different versions of the same workout to make it a little harder. So I mentioned, this person doing like single leg squat with the cart. So maybe you're still doing the single leg squat, but you might, hold on to the cart less and less as you move on. So you progressing to make the exercise a little harder. Now, on the other hand, somebody who's might be a little bit, more overconfident, they want to like, get to it, which is great, but they make it too hard. So say they haven't been working at all, but they want to do 10 push-ups in a row, and you can't do that. Like usually, women, we don't really have any upper body strength, and you're like, oh, no, 10 push-up, I can't do it, and then you feel like, oh, I'm not good, I'm not competent enough for strength training, therefore I shouldn't be doing this. And instead of doing that, I would tell people to do more, say, knees on the ground push-ups, maybe do instead of 10 to 3 first. So those are the kinds of things that you can really help you with starting and maintaining a strength training routine.
Love it. I love how you mentioned both sides of too easy, which I did that for a very long time. I was always like, oh, I don't get sweaty. I can do this all day. I never get sore. Well, it turned out I was doing things way too easy. And
Yeah.
that I know my husband is probably one of the worst for making everything too hard because of people trying to start where they think they need to be instead of where their body is now and building to where they want to be.
That's
That is
right.
such a common thing, whether it's with strength training, running. Like I know I had to take some time off recently from running, and now that I've started back, it's so frustrating that I'm not where I was when I stopped, but I know I'll get back. It's just
Yeah.
mentally I have to slow myself down, like, nope, you're not ready to do that workout. You've got to, build back up to it and you'll get there and you can. And it's really hard because even me as a coach, I have to remember to do this as well, just as much as we tell our athletes to do it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's normal, it's just how our human minds work. And it's good that you have, reminders and seeing things that, oh, you gotta pull yourself back. And that's the important thing. Like you realize that and you pull yourself back from doing what you're not supposed to do.
Oh yeah. I almost did it this morning where I started running. I was like, I'm gonna do an easy run. And I'm just going and I'm like, wait a second, I'm getting out of breath. I was like, this isn't
Oh,
an easy run. And I'm like, oh no, but this is my easy run pace. I'm like, this was my easy run pace. It's not anymore. I've got to get back.
yeah.
Is there any resources or recommendations that you have, whether books, websites, your own coaching program, anything like that, that you would suggest to someone who wanted to learn more about strength training and all of its benefits?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I follow actually another YouTuber is the body weight training. I believe he has both YouTube and Instagram. He's been doing his bathroom renovations though. But he's like one of my first inspiration to do strength training. Like it's just, simple things you do at home, how to do pull-ups. Those are the kinds of thing like women don't think they can do, but actually you can train toward to doing that. So definitely recommend him. And then I also have like a professor that I follow on Instagram. He's in, exercise physiology and he has a PhD, so he's pretty good. I forgot his name, but I can send it over to you as well. So
Okay.
he sometime, like every week he's like doing, publishes like showing sharing with you, researches or asking you true or false questions so that it's more a college classroom because that's what he does. It's very cool. And obviously I also do strength training. It's more, I guess, for me, when you come to me, it's more personalized things. So 6-minute workout, how do you get the big three exercises: squat, press, deadlift, within the your 6 minute, like maybe at least 3 times a week, those kinds of things. So for me, like I do have a blog that you can read about, but like about different equipment, strength training, maybe some stretches, but it's more personalized in a way that more to women and women who are busy.
Is there a link that I could share in the show notes so people could be able to find you to find that blog? 'Cause that sounds super extremely interesting.
Oh yes, I'll send it over to you after this, like everything, I'll send it over to you so that you can put it there for anyone to see.
Perfect. All of that will be in the show notes so you guys can find it because I know a lot of you are listening while you're running or driving. So I know that's my prime podcasting time. So I'm going to make sure that all of that's there. So when you get home and it's safe for you to get your phone out, you can go find all of that wonderful information. Is
That's
there
right.
any final thoughts that you'd like to share or leave our audience with, about strength training or mental mindset or anything?
Well, it's just that I just have to repeat myself. Like you're like I can help with your training, strength training to not be bulky or muscular. Like that is completely in your hand. And the as long as you do it safe, you can do strength training. Just don't go out there and compare yourself to people who either been doing it for years and years, or decades, or even the little kids like in their teens and 20s doing crazy things. And you're like, well, why can't my body do it? It's just not possible.
I love that you said to not compare yourself. That is so incredibly important to not compare because these people who are online, remember, they're only going to show you the highlight reel. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
best
going to show
parts.
you the bad parts of my run. That's not going to be when I whip out my phone and be like, hey, look what's happening. I'm going to be like, hey, look, we're smiling, we're laughing, we're just chilling. Like, when it
Right,
gets hard, phone stays in the pocket. And that's for
right.
me and that's for everybody.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we're not going to show you when we try to lift something on a bench press and it doesn't work out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to show
Not
you when
like
we're
your forms are
successful.
breaking, you're just shaking, become all wobbly, and you're like, uh-oh.
Exactly. So always remember that your journey is yours. You can only be yourself. You can't be someone else. And you can build yourself to whoever you want to be. It just has to still be you, not someone else.
Exactly.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. You had so much fantastic information about strength training and the benefits it has for someone, whether runners or just in general. So empowering. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, runners, for spending time with me and listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a review. I always love to hear from my listeners. And if you want more Let's Run Fit in your life, find me on Instagram at Let's Run Fit with B Lit. Until next time, runners! The information in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for medical or professional advice. Please always consult a medical professional if you're seeking medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The Let's Run Fit podcast is not liable for risk or issues associated with using or acting upon the information in this podcast.